or
It has
type
to
it
be one
into
of mine. No, I'm kidding. It has to be one of Jeff's.
what's a moment that's really stood out for you at a City Lights show that you were still talking about on the way home or later that day? Or
Let me just say the reason why we wanted to ask that question is because as we were sort of planning this evening, sort of a celebration of City Lights through me and my eyes and things that I've done, we made up this list. There's 52 shows that I've been involved with here. So you guys have to have something that you want to talk about. There's Steve Lambert. Look at that. Let's talk about Steve Lambert's shows.
Oh, geez.
Well, I have a few comments in the chat here from people. Diane Milo says Leather Night. Now, Kit, you will have to explain that one.
Okay, well, yeah, and Tom can help with this actually, because this has to do with Rocky Horror. The first time we did it, which was in 2003, when Sophie was but weeks old. Actually, I missed 2 rehearsals for Rocky Horror to go to the hospital while Sophie was born. It's kind of odd. We had a leather night for Rocky Horror, and many of the costumes and pieces and accessories for Rocky Horror that people wore came from Leather Masters in San Jose. Very generously sort of donated these various items and things. And so what we did is we arranged Michael West is applauding, and we arranged a special leather night at Rocky Horror where we performed Rocky Horror, and then many members of the cast did a fashion show of other Leather Masters garb for what was it, 45 minutes, something like that. Tom, help me.
Something like that. It was an exchange in exchange for them donating about, I'm going to say $3,500 worth of costume pieces.
Yeah.
We had to do a fetish fashion show following. I remember it was on a Friday night.
Yep. I did not partake. I just watched. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I had been prancing around enough that
night. Were eager to partake. So
many were. Oh, lots of folks. It was a lot of fun. That whole show was a lot of fun.
Partook, if I'm not mistaken.
Who?
Shannon.
She did.
I did, and I walked somebody on a leash down. And I wore a leather collar and outfit. I still have my Rocky Horror outfit though. Have not found use to wear it, but I should. But well, yeah, I was in that fashion show.
You're in New York City, and it surprises me that you haven't been able to wear it since.
I mean, I should. I really should. Why not?
That was sort of an astonishing show. You know, we were Tom, obviously, and Shannon, you guys know this. Lisa, you know this. We were scheduled to run for 5 weeks, and we extended for 3 or 6 weeks, and then we extended for 3 and another 2.
It was 6 weeks original, and then we had 2 extensions of
to 11 weeks, which was crazy. And I think John Bird and I were, there might have been a couple others, but the principals, John Bird and I think were the only 2 who did every single one of the 44 shows.
Amazing.
Sometimes better than others. But that was a blast. That was a blast. So, and that's one of those things I owe Tom Goff for the rest of my life for the fun that show was. It should not be legal how much fun we had.
And that's actually a perfect start.
I'm not going to say.
That's the first show we were going to talk about. So that's actually the perfect start. And I'm not sure why we thought we needed an icebreaker for this, because you all are like, the ice is broken.
Yeah, well, Rocky Horror is sort of a really good icebreaker. And that's the first show I appeared in at City Lights. So, yeah. So there you go. Thanks to Tom again, who called me one day. And Lisa and he were working hard to straighten things up and get things going and really push things forward for City Lights. And Tom called me one after and said, hey, I'm looking for a Frankenfurter. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, what do you want? You want me to prepare something and come in and sing? He said, no, you don't understand. I want you to do it. I said, well, you have to ask my wife because she's really pregnant.
It was her idea.
That's what he said. And Tom said, well, she's right here and she told me to call you. So that's how the deal was done. So I guess thank you, Lisa and Tom.
It was her little mouse voice in my ear saying, what about Kit?
You needed an excuse to wear those high heels.
No, now I bought those high heels for the show, and don't you be telling lies. It was the other heels that I had. Anyway, moving on.
Well, as you may have noticed, this is not going to be a super organized evening. This is
That's
going to be
fine.
really interactive and fun. I do have a few photos I'm going to share.
Can I show
Uh-oh.
I do.
So-
I've got a couple of photos.
So just
Sorry.
a question. So
this? I
Kit
just
is
have
gonna,
to show this.
so what time does the Man for All Seasons start? Kit's gonna act out the whole play tonight, is that right?
Okay, that's a segue to another interesting issue, because when Becky and I were talking about this and organizing this evening, which has already gone to hell, one of the things that I suggested was we should talk about the Jeff Bronco trilogy, which is
Sure.
you know, which was Musketeers, Art, and Butterfly, and it's a really good segue into the always, if Jeff Bronco ever offers you a role in a show, read it first.
Yeah, you really
He
should
offers
have.
me these roles, and I'm always flattered, and Jeff's, you know, one of my dearest friends, so I always say yes.
Room for it.
And then I sit in the cast with the cast at the first read through like a dummy and find out what I've gotten myself into. So
Yeah,
always read the play first.
yeah.
Well, that's
exactly.
sort of how it happened with me with the goater who was Sylvia, because I most clearly remember that in a run or something, we were going through the run. It could have been a dress rehearsal. And at one point, Kit come up on stage and says, "I just realized you never leave the stage." And I looked at him and I said, "Did you read this play before you cast it?"
I don't know what the thing is with me, and like it's easy. Just do it. It's just, you know, it's just a play. Anyway, Becky, you had something you wanted to move on to.
Sorry, just responding to something in the Facebook chat. Well, not really. Well, very roughly what we were planning to do this evening was talk about, well, I think I phrased it as Kit is taking us on a tour of some of City Light's most epic shows through the lens of three of the jobs he has held: actor, director, and playwright. I really am not going to do that much. I'm going to just sit back, but I do have some photos. So maybe I'll
Well,
just
show
start by
some
showing
photos,
some of the...
and we'll talk about those.
Yeah, so I'm going to show some photos that are from Kit, the actor,
Uh-oh.
at City Lights. Anyway, I know. You gave me the photos, don't I?
Yeah, but uh-oh.
Wait a
Here we
minute.
go.
Somebody moved something around on my computer. Just
And I
a
can talk about
second.
them while you're showing them, right?
Yeah, you can.
Like
Let
I
me
can
just
say
get
things like,
this.
"No, that's not really me."
Yeah, but no one's going to believe you.
True.
All right. 1 second here. And let me get back to where I was trying to go. Haha. All right. Here we go. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Who is that?
That's at a rehearsal for the Mousetrap in 1980, the summer of 1980,
Whoa, sorry, go back.
at Santa Clara University. So I was 19 years old.
Hashtag big man on campus.
No,
Yeah.
and look at that ridiculous outfit. Oh my God. And you know what? I hate logos nowadays. I don't wear clothes with logos on them. What am I doing with, like, what is that? Is that like a fox or something?
No idea.
That's just, move along. Let's move along.
All right. We've also got a couple pictures from Rocky Horror.
Well, there we go.
Oh my goodness. Hey, is that Shannon Stowe back there?
That's the show where I was told to wear 2 bathing suits instead of 1 because 1 bathing suit was too revealing.
And then this happened. So
Yeah.
that's Rocky Horror. That was Kit's first show at City Lights, 2003.
And Charles McKeithen has been trying to grab me ever since.
My goodness.
Wow.
I don't know
look
what
at
to
that.
say.
I
I
always
know.
thought I was taller.
Maybe the people
Oh.
behind you are standing on things.
Maybe I just
All
felt
right, I'm
up
going to go
with
through a
those
few more
shoes.
pictures here, and then we'll just jump in. So Rocky Horror, and the kid also was interested in talking about Jesus Christ Superstar, which was a real game changer.
Yeah, well,
for his life.
that's kind of a big deal because it's Lisa's take on Rocky Horror on Superstar was kind of amazing, and I had done the show 3 times before. Oh, there's a lovely picture of me wanting to throw up. I've never seen that picture before.
How about this one?
That I've seen.
Well, I think this one looks like a painting. I think this picture is just gorgeous.
That was the show that we at the Pay What You Can preview. We had to start half an hour late because the line was out and down the block way past Emil's at curtain time, And we had not expected such a thing. So we started half an hour late because we had to get all those people in. The show sold at what, 101% or something like that. We sat people in the booth sometimes.
Before my
That was
time.
fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the show also
At least
where
101.
we had a weekend.
Yeah.
We had a weekend for Jesus Christ Superstar where the temperature was well into the hundreds all weekend long. People were literally dying in the Bay Area, all up and down California from the heat. And there we were doing this show, and anyone who's been to City Lights knows that climate control is not exactly, or has not exactly been a strong point. And we had swamp coolers all in the back, all over the back, big tubs of ice with fans just so that we could get through it. That was crazy. It was like 103 in the theater, but oh well, it was sort of like really being there, Anyway.
You said that Jesus Christ Superstar was the show that no one thought City Lights could do, and this was 2006. Yeah, 2006. You said this was it. Nobody thought City Lights could do the show. Why?
Well, it wasn't that nobody thought that we could do it. The question sort of ran when the buzz all started, and pun intended, I guess, is how are they going to do that? Superstar is a huge show. It's an opera. It's always done on huge stages with huge. We don't need to see that yet. And huge, with huge scenic elements and whatnot. And here we were trying to do Jesus Christ Superstar in what has become sort of the City Lights way, up close and personal, and people really seem to love it. We answered the question: how are we going to do it? We're going to do it by reinventing it. What if it's this sort of up in your grill piece? Back in 2000, what was this, 6? When we were thinking about doing this show, Lisa and I looked at each other. We're like, well, can we? Do you think we can? And I had done it 3 times before, and I say to this day, Lisa's direction of it and the way the show came together, I don't ever have to do it again. That was the one I've been looking forward to doing the entire time. So it's really something.
That's also the show that started our 6-show season.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How many shows did City Lights have a season before that? 5.
5.
Yeah.
It was also the show that had us create the passerelle.
Right. That's right.
We built the space behind the audience specifically for that show, because in production meetings, we said that we wanted the audience to feel like disciples.
Yep.
And so in order for them to feel like they were truly a part of that story, we wanted to sing behind them and have people up in the audience. And so there was a transformation of the space for that show.
Yeah, it was very, very exciting. I remember, when we were helping Ron put all of that together, cast members would come in, 2-3 hours before rehearsal, helping to move seats and build risers. And I remember cast members and I and whatnot, we would, up until opening night, staying late until 2-3 in the morning, building railings for new seating sections and whatnot. We were transforming the theater all the way up until we opened, which was really remarkable.
I wish I'd seen it.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yes, it was.
Well, judging by the photos, God, I can't get over this photo. Do you remember who took these photos? This is before my time.
It might have been.
I mean, it was
Shannon, was this you?
I took a lot of them. I still have a CD. Remember those things?
Yeah, remember?
I still have a device that I can put it into and find more pictures. But I took a bunch of them.
You took a lot of rehearsal shots too, I remember.
Yeah. I don't know
that was a good show. That was a good show. And I remember, Lisa, you sort of were running on all kinds of buzz from the Da Vinci Code, remember? And the whole thing about, and you sort of redoing the thing that everybody does the show as a triangle between Jesus, Judas, and Mary, and you sort of reconceived as a triangle between Jesus, Judas, and Pilate, which I think really worked very, very well. It was very exciting to be part of.
Which I don't think took away from the character or the relationships that Mary was a part of, but I just felt like the power triangle was Jesus, Judas, and Pilate. I felt
think
like
it told.
Pilate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Pilate. Well, he was great, and the focus being that the power struggle that everybody was affected by was really those three. That's such an amazing role that I think often doesn't get enough, juice.
Pilate?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pilate's a great role.
Remember we talked about even if we wanted Mary to be pregnant?
Uh-huh.
We decided not to do that, but we did everything else.
Yeah. Like, leave that one alone.
You ready for the next one, Kit?
Sure, let's go. What's next?
Well, the next thing is the Bronco Trilogy.
Oh yeah.
For those of
Well,
you
I want
who
to tell a
don't
story
know,
about. I want to tell one more story about
Uh-oh,
Jesus Christ
uh-oh.
Superstar, though. That this was the summer of 2006, and before this show was over, obviously we knew what the following season was, and starting with the very first performance of Jesus Christ Superstar, or very soon after the opening, as part of the live curtain speech that Lisa would always do, she was advertising the musical for the next season, 2007, which was the Full Monty. And it was sort of a lock, because here she was given the curtain speech for Jesus Christ Superstar and telling everybody that the next year they could see Jesus and Judas and Pilate in there all together in the Full Monty, a year from then. And, and it seemed to work because people came to that too. So,
the other
Lisa,
thing I just
marketing brilliance.
The other thing I think is really interesting that most people don't know was that we were supposed to do Urinetown the summer of 2006. We had the rights.
Right.
That's what we announced. And like a few months into the season, Stage Company did it, or announced that they were doing it.
Yep.
And they were doing it in May, and we were scheduled to open it in July of 2006. So I pulled it. I was like, we can't do that show. And then, I was very upset with MTI, of course, but Jesus Christ Superstar was a replacement.
Yeah.
And I think because we were sort of forced to punt, that we all just wanted it to kill it,
Yeah.
And it had the production staff and all of the artists put so much energy into that show. We had so many meetings and talked about it so much, but I do remember that it wasn't supposed to be that show.
That's right. And I remember that they were doing, when we were doing String of Pearls, which was the show before Superstar, the Stage was doing Urinetown, like right before we were supposed to be doing this. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Tom Goff just mentioned something interesting. Tom Goff just mentioned a show called Cloud's Hill.
Yes.
Does anybody just speak up? Did anybody see that? Did anybody remember that show?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
it.
Cloud's Hill was a very interesting show. An original piece by playwright and
Charles Everett.
Charles Everett, exactly right, who came out and did this world premiere piece. Really fascinating play, three-hander that Lisa and I were in, and what Kunal Prasad, if I'm correct, was the other guy.
Ding. That's correct.
Look at that. Unbelievable. I cannot remember my lines, and I can remember this guy's name from that long ago. And that was kind of remarkable. Tom, you remember, I mean, that show was, we were redoing the lobby and trying to rehearse the play and reformatting. Oh my God. I hadn't even remembered all of that. That was craziness. Good play about the insidiousness of foreignness and terrorism, really. That's what it was about. I thought it was fascinating and mercifully short. And Anthony Aranda's in the house.
The fact that it featured the two of you also.
What?
The fact that it featured you and Lisa.
It
was
did.
My last show, quote unquote, as the artistic director as I was exiting.
That's right. When that was, what year was that, Tom?
Fall of 2004.
All right. Sure. Wow.
Anyway.
Okay, Becky, what's next?
The Bronco Trilogy.
All right. The 3 shows that Jeff and I have worked on.
Yeah. So for those of
Has
you who
there only
don't
been-
know,
Only been
We
3?
actually have worked on 4,
no.
but one of them counts as sort of the originals. So we'll go with what are we talking about? We're talking about
Well, so we've got you and Jeffrey Bronco, who is an actor and director and playwright as well. And
Right
you
over there in
guys
the
have done a
corner.
lot together. But for this, since we're still in the acting world, we are going to, let me get my screen back up here again. All right. We're going to talk about, well, first of all, the most important thing is
oh my
about
God.
when they met.
Ah,
Ah! At Santa Clara
1988.
University.
1988, Romeo and
Crazy.
Mercutio.
Fall of 1988. Oh my goodness.
That's the year we met, and
Wait.
there are so many stories we don't have time for them. Thank you.
It's a good thing we both look exactly the same.
Right. I look like you, and you look like me.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Wow, we.
So this is Romeo and Juliet, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's lovely. And we also have some other images from shows that Jeff directed and Kit was in. I'm just going to scroll through them all and then let's throw them out. All right, here we've got, oh, well, this is just
Oh,
a
that's
few
just
of them
us.
looking exactly the same as when they were at Santa Clara.
Oh my
This
God.
is one of my favorite shows at City Lights. This was
Oh, yeah,
Art
yeah, yeah.
with Max
Art,
Packus
yes.
there looking
Max.
thrilled and happy. Yeah, fall of 2014.
Now, there's a story about Art that Jeff and I like to reminisce about. You know, we were cast in Art, and Max hadn't been cast in the show, and we auditioned Max and some others, and Max was cast as Yvonne in Art. Now, as you all know, or maybe do, Yvonne in the middle of the show has something like a 4 or 5 page monologue with no punctuation. It's this incredible thing that this actor has to do. Well, you know, Jeff and I are feeling our oats, and we're on stage together really for the first time since 1989, since 88. This was the first show we did on stage together since then. And we're like, you know, old pros, old hams doing our thing. And Max Packus, this kid from God knows where, walks in to the theater and wipes the place up with us. Just wipes us up. It was crazy. And we went out into the lobby during a break and looked at each other and says, well, shit, we need to like do our stuff. So I think it's because of Max that show was any good at all.
Well, he came in after what, a week of rehearsal, had that whole monologue memorized, and we're like, oh, I guess we have to start memorizing our lines.
Yeah.
Now because
And everything else.
He showed us up.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And unfortunately is still doing the same thing to this day.
It's true. You know. It's true.
Pure terror is a great motivator.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
There he is. Yes. Pure terror.
That was a lot of fun.
I was just so happy. I was so happy with that long monologue that I got the line right after his monologue. I forget what it was, but I could get a laugh after his monologue. So that made me happy. If he did his monologue well and I did my line well, I got a laugh. So
well, yeah, of course, and you know, you'd think that the other 2 actors can sit back and relax during Yvonne's bond, but no, Ginger directed it, like choreographed all of these gestures and movements that we had to do sitting on the couch together to various words and phrases of Yvonne's monologue. So we'd be waiting and we'd have to like put the other knee over there, put our arms over the back of the thing, sit forward, sit back. It was crazy. It was like a little dance.
Yeah,
it was nuts. It was great.
There was a lovely few evenings when the Giants were in their first World Series in how long, where every time one of us ran off, it was a quick score check and then it was right back on.
It was actually the playoffs.
And there was that 16-inning game.
Yeah, it was at least 16 innings, whatever. And we went on, it was like the 7th or 8th inning we went on, and or maybe it was even later, maybe it was extra innings already, and they kept going on. And we finally, right before curtain call, I went back and checked the score, and we had won, and we announced it to the audience during the curtain call.
You announced it to me during the scene we were doing.
Shh, quiet. Don't talk about that. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Art was a lot of fun.
And it was also, I love the set by Ron Gasparnetti. It's just so like Paris apartment. Yeah. Do I have one more of these, or I'm on to the next one? Oh, that one's the next one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. You want to talk one more about art? Should I go back?
No, well, I just wanted to shout out to Ron, man, because I tell you what, we've all worked at all kinds of places, and I am always so eager to see what Ron's coming up with, because I know either as an actor or as a director, I know that it's gonna be exactly either what I want as a director that I can really play with my actors on, or as an actor, I know that I can live fully in that space. Whether it's abbreviated like the art set, but absolutely perfect, or some sumptuous full decorated thing like his Amadeus set or some of his interiors. Ron Gasparnetti, he's the bomb. He's the chops. So, it's great to work in his world.
And he's great to collaborate with too, because he'll throw out an idea, I'll throw an idea back, he'll throw out an idea back, and before you know it, you have the best set you could ever imagine. He's great. He's a great collaborator.
For those of you, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say his set for Proof in 2005 was extraordinary.
Yep.
I mean, that was the backyard of some house in Chicago. I mean, no mistake at all.
Yeah, his stuff is great.
I was just going to say,
but he had last week, so
we had him on. Yeah, I was just going to say he was on last week. So if you want to know more about Ron Gasparnetti, you can go to our YouTube channel and see last week's, because he does amazing work. All right, Kate, you ready for the next show?
Yeah, go.
Next show, 2015 is Butterfly.
I was going to say, I thought this was Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird.
I know, right? Everybody thinks this is my Atticus Finch.
I know.
Everybody thinks this is Atticus Finch, but I tell you what, anytime that we want to do that, Jeff has to direct it because I want to do it. So there you
let's
go.
do it.
You heard it here first.
Awesome. That would be awesome.
This was Gallimard in M. Butterfly. This is another one of those mountainous shows that Jeff said, yeah, I'd really like you to do this show. I think you'd be really good in it. I need you to do the show. And so I said, okay, let's do this little play. Oh my Lord. The last time that Jeff had done this before we did M. Butterfly was when he called me and he asked me to play what's his bucket? Valmont in Dangerous Liaisons, which I said, oh yeah, sure, because I remember the movie and I remember Glenn Close in the movie. I didn't remember that, oh yeah, the other guy's in like all of it.
Yeah.
But then I did it again for this one. This was the hardest thing I've ever done as an actor, this show. Gallimard required things of me I didn't know I had. And Jeff, thank God, was patient with that. And interestingly, I love this. Jeff teaches at Santa Clara University and teaches this play. Yeah. And when he came to direct it for City Lights, he's working with me and working with the rest of the cast on M. Butterfly, and realizes with me that even the fact that he's taught this show for several years at Santa Clara, he really doesn't know it, because you don't know a show until you're doing it. We were absolutely at our wits' end with this play.
Yeah. We discovered so much during the rehearsal process. It was so rich. I mean, the play is so rich and has so many layers, and it's so complex. And I thought I knew it until I started directing it. And thank God we could navigate it together and with a great cast. Everybody was really at the top of their game on this one, and we found some nice things.
Fun story here is this is one of those. This was a show where Jeff and my common affinity and love for Shakespeare sort of came into play.
That's right.
I was finding Gallimard very hard to play. He's at least three different people simultaneously through the show. He is the person that he is for the audience. He's the person he is for himself. He's the person he is for for the other people in the play. He doesn't fit any of these roles. He has to be funny without being self-consciously funny. He has to communicate without being a good communicator. It's sort of almost impossible. And Jeff and I, one day after rehearsal, we were talking about it, and we sort of, our eyes both lit up like in the same moment, and practically at the same time to each other said, oh my God, He's Richard II. And as soon as we realized that what we were doing was that, in a way, everything, all the wheels started landing on the tracks the right way, which was really exciting. You know, sometimes it's nothing but another show that you're familiar with. Go away. That sometimes opens the door to you.
Yeah. Well, I think we were looking at him kind of in more as a hero instead of an anti-hero, you know. And I think we found that, you know, he wants to be the hero of his own story, but he's not a hero at all. He's the opposite. He really is. So,
which is tricky for an actor, because we all want to get out there and we all want to be the hero.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to get out there and want to be the hero and have, at least people have told me, have some charisma and some ability to charm an audience, and all of that had to go by the wayside.
Right.
You know, I couldn't see any of that, which was really fascinating to do.
He's a nobody who wants to be a somebody, and that's hard for a somebody like you. But you found it. You found it.
Thanks. It's also the show where I dropped 3 scenes on opening night.
Yeah, but you came back to them, so you know.
I did, but I dropped them. They were gone for a while. That was very scary, but that's maybe for another time.
Yeah.
What's next in the Bronco trilogy?
Isn't that enough? Oh my gosh.
A trilogy usually has 3 things.
Oh.
So. But wait a minute, did I skip one?
Well, because we've done 2 other shows together, but one is sort of overlap. Because we did, actually 2 of them overlap. Because we did Three Musketeers together, which was my script of Three Musketeers,
and
which Jeff came which Jeff came from Paris to direct. And that was, here's a fun story about that. So we had 2 weeks of rehearsal before Jeff came into town from Paris. And what we decided to do is I worked with, and I was the fight director for the show as well as in it. And I worked with the cast on all of the fights for the show, built all the fights for the show before Jeff even came into town. So they were sort of ready to show Jeff, and, you know, at half speed, to be careful. Let's not really, you know, go to town with this, but let's just do the fights as we've learned them, show them to Jeff, whatnot. Jeff came to rehearsal, and we sort of, and we went through a lovely sort of informal ceremony of handing the show now over to him from me, since I had been in charge of things for 2 weeks. And he talked about the show and the things he wanted to do, and he was eager to see the fights. And so he said to us, so now what I'd like you to do is do the play. And we all sat there and said, wait, what? Yeah, do the play. So, well, all we've done is the fights. Yeah, I know, you can do the fights too, but do the play. Start at the beginning and go to the end and do what you know. Go. So at our first rehearsal for the Three Musketeers, we did a run through, which was really fascinating. It was bad.
That's just mean, Jeff. That's just mean.
No, there was a method to my madness. One was that
French directors,
they discovered a lot of stuff. I discovered a lot of stuff. I also was, quite frankly, really jet lagged that night, and it was just easier to make them work. So.
Okay.
Now the true story comes out. No. There was other reasons for it, but that did help.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Well, I've done that. I've done that with other casts, and I do actually find it can be fun for the actors too, because there's no preconceptions. There's just like, okay, we can do whatever we want. We can try things, and sometimes you you discover things that you can use later. And a lot of it isn't going to work, but you just kind of have that freedom as an actor just to go for it. I mean, I enjoy doing that as an actor sometimes.
And then the other one is leads us into more originals, which is Truce.
Well, I've got your Musketeers photos over in the playwriting section. So do you want to jump over to the playwriting section? We can do that.
And these photos were taken by Shannon Stowe. I know that for a fact.
The Musketeer ones? Let me just jump over here. All right, here we go. Yeah, I've got a couple of Musketeer photos.
Look at Tommy and Kit being rough and tough.
Yeah, I've got 2 of these. My goodness, what are you doing to that poor person?
Yeah, I don't think we can talk about that in mixed company.
Okay.
Actually, it's very interesting. There's a story behind this picture. Tommy, are you ready? So this moment is at the end of a fight where a bunch of ruffians in a tavern have tried to kill D'Artagnan, played by Tommy Gorebeck. who is with us this evening, I think. And the Musketeers come in, and Aramis and Porthos stand back, and Athos jumps in and helps D'Artagnan subdue the bad guys. On the night of the talk back, or the afternoon of the talk back, during a moment in this fight, this actor who is being pinned to the table punched D'Artagnan in the face as staged and clipped him in the nose. And for the rest of the scene, poor Tommy, as D'Artagnan, is bleeding from the nose. So, you know, we're passing around hankies and whatnot, so he can keep the blood under, you know, at bay and whatnot. And somebody asked at the talkback, "Wow, that was so amazing how you did the blood. How did you do the blood?" Well, I'm not proud of it, obviously, because the whole point of stage combat is you want to be able to get through it without that. But we did have to admit that, no, what you were seeing was the real thing. And I think Tommy can verify that that's true. He's here tonight.
Yeah, that was a wild show, man. I remember I got off stage actually with the blood coming in, because D'Artagnan really doesn't leave. And so for a moment I got off stage, and then Amanda Filano, who was playing Constance, brought me into the bathroom and like held up my nose and was like checking to see if it was broken, and then just like threw me back on stage. It's a crazy show. That was also the show where I had staged a dagger toss, and in a rehearsal, the dagger toss went awry, and Tommy got stabbed in the webbing of his between two fingers and had to go to the emergency room. So we cut the toss. You know, it was during our first dress, so we for our first run through, so we still had time to kind of heal and then get ready for the show.
I don't remember that workers' comp claim being filed.
Yeah, those are the things that I'm not proud of. Those things shouldn't happen, but you know, but they do sometimes. What are you going to do?
Hey, Kit, wasn't that the show that you created the swing from the back behind the audience?
Oh, yeah. Charles McKeithen swung in on a rope. Yeah, that was it. He swung in on a rope.
My kid still talks about that because I took his Boy Scout troop to that show, and he still brings that up as one of his favorite shows because of that swing.
When I called Chuck and said, "Hey, I want you to play this part," he said, "Okay, I'll do it, but you have to promise me that I can swing in on a rope." I said, "Okay, well, let me talk to Ron, and I figure I can have you swing in on a rope." And we did.
I think you ran it by me too, and I allowed it, but
I didn't run shit by you. You know that. No, I did. Can he swing in on a rope? And you said,
I thought, hey, what a great idea. Let's do it. That was awesome. It was a great moment.
So that's Musketeers. And I've done now probably I've done about 24 or 25 productions of the Three Musketeers in some way or other, as an actor or director or fight director, my script and other people's scripts. It's kind of that it's remember back in the day when people did Dungeons and Dragons? Musketeers are that to me. So, you know, anytime, any place, I'll don the silly clothes and swing some steel. There you go. Next.
Wait a minute. For this photo, of course, yes, people are commenting on the chat about how young George looks. First, I don't know if that was the first time I met. It probably was the first time I met George. But also that's John Romano, right? That's the actor in Cern, who now lives in Paris. As a matter of fact, we've changed places. He lives there now.
This is the scene, and this is the moment. In fact, what he's holding right there is a fake apple, because early on he decided in early dresses he wanted something real to eat. The only problem is that there were lots of lines in the second half of this scene. We're back and forth really quickly, a lot of plot to get rid of, and he's chowing down on like a baguette and could not speak. So you had to talk to him about, no, John, we need to have fake food. So there you go.
George does look young. What was he? This is 2009.
Yeah. 8 or 9.
All right. Well, we've jumped over to playwriting, so shall we jump on to Truth? Because that's
let's jump on to Truth.
Kit and Jeff show. So Truth, A Christmas Wish for the Great War, 2014, co-written by Kit and Jeff, directed by Jeff.
No,
I was going to say, I hope this is a Truth photo. I'm sorry, directed by Kit. Yes.
Yeah, but to this day, anytime I'm
It's because
directing a
you look
show,
alike.
the cast wants to know when the real director, Jeff Bronco, is coming. I get it from every cast I ever work with. Yeah, truce. Back in about the latter half of 2012, very beginning of 2013, and Lisa was talking about what we could do for the holiday show in 2014, because one of the bugaboos for City Lights always has been the holiday show. What are we going to do for the holiday show? What are we going to do for the holiday show? It has to be something that's okay for everybody to see, but it needs to be something new or something unusual or something offbeat that's more in the City Lights vein. And we were thinking about it, and I said to Lisa, I said, well, you know, 2014 is the centennial of the 1914 Christmas truce during World War I. And she said, really? I said, yes. She said, tell me about it. So I did. She said, write it. So I did. But before I did, actually, which is not true, I said, I'm going to need help. It's huge. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I want to call Jeff and I want to ask him if he'll help me with it. And so she said, yeah, absolutely. So I called Jeff. I said, hey, I have this idea. And rather like me, whenever he wants me to do a part, he was dumb enough to say, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And joined forces with me to create this piece, which was actually, I discovered in directing it, and I'm sure that Jeff discovered in watching it. It's a musical. There's a lot of music in it, and the more you focus on the music, the more beautiful it really can be. But it's based on actual events. I based it, you know, I took letters and songs and whatnot to Jeff, and we worked on, we actually went up to Reno. No, we went up to, well, almost Reno for a weekend, and sort of plotted the whole things out on 3x5 cards and figuring out how to make this play work, and sort of hit on the notion of letters, you know, letters that the soldiers were writing to home, letters that the folks at home were writing to the soldiers or to each other. To sort of build this pastiche of music and vignettes about what was going on in World War I, the Great War in 1914 around Christmas time. And then we came up with the notion that we had to have a plot.
Yeah.
We had to have a story. And so we built these two parallel stories of Tommy, this young soldier off to fight in the war, and Georg, this more experienced German soldier off to fight in the war. Tommy's, you know, a soldier fighting in the war, and Georg is a soldier who is in hospital, having been wounded. Tommy has a lot of scenes with his young wife, Georg, played by Max Takis impeccably, with his nurse, Caitlin Papp, who was also impeccable in this show. Jeff, I don't even know if you know this, that the role of Georg I sort of loosely modeled on Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, who was a flyer who was wounded and who developed a relationship with a nurse when he was in hospital the year before he died. But it was a fascinating play to do, and Jeff was, I mean, so great working with me. You know, I mean, it's something I use actually in my classes, in my playwriting classes. I spend an entire day talking about the Playwriting Cliff, which is this place that you get up to, that you've done everything that your play can contain. You can do everything that your play can hold, and if you jump over that cliff, you've jumped off into melodrama or spoof, or just theater that nobody can believe. So Jeff particularly was really good at pulling me back, going, yeah, not that. You don't want to go there. Jeff, you have any comments about Truce besides the fact that we were brilliant?
You know, I think somehow it you know, it was 90 minutes and we packed a lot into those 90 minutes. It was great. We didn't have an intermission because I think the story just built on itself, and the emotion built up and welled up. And I still, to this day, there's I mean, I still get the most comments when I'm at City Lights or I'm directing show and people come up to me and talk. That's the show they want to talk about, really more than any other, at least the ones that I've been involved with. And, you know, I know there've been terrific shows, but I just find that the effect on the audience was something I didn't see coming. And I mean, you know, we did the best we could. We wrote the best play we could. We had great actors, you know, you directed it well, but the impact on the audience was amazing in a way that I just didn't expect.
I'm most gratified that veterans liked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many came back to see it again. And I know that some would talk to me, we have these talkbacks after every, the gatherings after every show. Many would talk to me about how you asked if we had ever been in the service, which we have not, which was astonishing to them because they kept saying that we nailed it. We nailed what it's like to be serving in these situations. And that was really gratifying, because sometimes what you're doing as a writer, as a director, even as an actor, whatnot, it's guesswork, man. You're doing your best and you're just kind of guessing and following a hunch, following an instinct. This was a show that, that resulted from a whole lot of instinct and a love of the topic. I mean, I've been a student of this period and World War I and whatnot since I was 9 and 10 years old, and I'd sit next to my dad in the living room and ask him, how did World War I start? So it resulted in this play, which I think even my father enjoyed. So that's nice. So that's Truce.
And then 3 years later, we had Frankenstein, also written by Pitt, brand new adaptation.
Yeah, again, Frankenstein was, there's a somewhat of a bone of contention about Frankenstein, of who brought the idea to Frankenstein to City Lights, but really we had done a reading of somebody else's script years before. Frankenstein's a story that sort of comes up theatrically. People want to do it. And Lisa was thinking about doing it because it was going to be the bicentennial of the publication of the first version of Frankenstein written by Mary Shelley. So we thought, okay, here we are. Yet we can do another celebration of a work of art. And so what I read a lot of versions of Frankenstein, including the one that had just been such a hit in London at the National Theatre with Benedict Cumberbatch and what's his name? And Johnny Lee Miller, who were switching the roles of Dr. Frankenstein and the creature through the run. Some of you may have seen it a month or two ago. It was on, you could get it free on one of the streaming channels, which is a remarkable production visually and whatnot. But I read the script and didn't like it. And there you go. That says a lot about me. I'm the guy who thinks that he's better than the National Theatre of Great Britain. There it is. I said it. But I didn't like the script. I didn't think that it focused on the things that the book was really about. I didn't think it focused well on the things that Lisa Millette, who commissioned this, wanted it to be about. So I wrote my own. And it started, one of the notes in who is it, Nick Deere? One of the notes in that script at the very beginning, a playwright, the author's note, is no slabs, avoid slabs. The whole notion of the creature on a slab. No, we don't want to deal with that. Don't do that. Do anything but that. No slabs. And so when I sat down to write mine, the first thing I wrote was the opening scene direction, which was a slab, several slabs everywhere. I want slabs all over the place. Slabs, vertical, horizontal, at angles, all kinds of slabs. And what we discovered is that those slabs could be projection surfaces. And that's the show that we introduced projection mapping to City Lights. To that on that scale, where the set was merely a bunch of really sort of stalagmites sticking up out of the ground at angles with these sort of flat surfaces, and our designers did some amazing scene design, projecting whatever scenery we needed on those surfaces, which was essential for the play because Frankenstein goes everywhere. The book, the story goes everywhere, from an attic, a garret laboratory, in Ingolstadt in Austria to the Alps, for Pete's sake, and every place in between. So we really needed to do it that way. So we wanted to experiment with this new technology at City Lights, and I think we managed it pretty darn well. Also, artistic director Lisa Millette wanted the play very much to be about empathy. She wanted the play to be about how we treat the other, those who are not accepted, those who are outside of accepted society, as the creature certainly is. And I find it interesting that we did Becky, when did we do this play? In 2017? So it's 3 years later, yeah. And it's even more timely now. You know, that's kind of remarkable. So yeah, but that's Frankenstein. So we did Frankenstein. And one of the things that I wanted to do is I didn't want Frankenstein to be made up of a whole bunch of different parts. You know, I wanted there is no suggestion in the book at all about how Dr. Frankenstein makes his creature, what the creature's made of, what Frankenstein goes through to make him. And so it occurred to me it would be really interesting to have this enormous reborn creature be almost infantile, which I discovered in reading the book closely is far more close to Mary Shelley's original intent than any sort of cinematic version of it with scars and bolts and the whole thing. The creature in the book is described almost as beautiful, with almost a translucent skin, and I found that fascinating. So we were trying to do some different things with it, and I think, hey, there he is, only kind of hairy right now. Yes, and Nick, Nick, there he is. Nick, who played the creature. I basically wrote it for Nick and for Max. Those were the voices that I was hearing as I wrote the play, and I went to Nick and I said, now look, you know, this is going to be hard work, and you're going to have to be with me from the minute we begin, even if not beforehand. I had Nick and Max come over and have dinner and read sections of the script and whatnot. And then I said to Nick, I said, but here's the kicker. You need to shave your entire body clean. And that face that he just made right there, that's what he did. He looked at me with that sort of smirky little smile and said, what? I said, you have to shave your entire body clean. And he paused and said, okay. And as it happened, I didn't make him do it. He had to shave his head and have no eyebrows and whatnot. But I was gonna have him be literally nude in the creation scene, and that's when I wanted him to be completely clean shaven and whatnot everywhere. And then we decided there was enough visually to go with that show that we didn't really need to do that. So he didn't have to shave his entire body.
We also had a running joke that we were going to throw me in a tub filled with Nair and just burn all of the hair off so that I didn't have to worry about spending so much time shaving.
Can you imagine the itch fest you would have been?
Oh my God, the upkeep alone, Nick, right? You would have to just constantly be.
Oh my God. Yeah, I shaved like 10 minutes ago, and then
grow a beard in 3 hours.
This grew back. I swear to God, it's terrible.
So yeah, but it's interesting, you know, Frankenstein is not a stage-worthy book. If you read it, it's based on you know, it's really a story told in the past tense by somebody else, and it's a lot of letters and whatnot, and there's not a lot of emotional juice to it, and being told in a way that the character has already lived through this stuff. It's all very much self-flagellation. Oh my God, mea culpa, this terrible thing that I did, page after page after page. That's really not exciting in the theater. I mean, to watch somebody get up on stage and go, oh my God, poor me, I did this bad thing, and for 2 hours is ridiculous. Nobody wants that. So, and it was very interesting in rehearsals to find those places with the actors that I could really bring to life relationships. Because as with any show, with any play, we discovered that it's in the relationships that we're going to find the juice for the story. Which was, and having these actors who could change on a dime. And I mean, I remember there were times where in rehearsals that I would literally ask them to stop. I'd give them a 10-minute break. I'd sit down at my laptop and I would rewrite a scene in 10 minutes and hand it to them. And they'd just make that work. That doesn't happen all the time. And I'll tell you what, it's really a lovely thing when you can just, you know, you trust your cast, man. You can try, you just say, here, try this. It might not work. See where it goes. Or even to be able to say to them as both the playwright and the director, what's missing here? I'm not getting what I need. What's missing? And more often than not, Nick or Max or Ronit or Steve, you know, would say, how about this? Or, you know, I'm feeling that I should be this. And more often than not, they were dead right. Dead right. So gratitude to that entire cast who made that show work.
Indeed.
It was a lot of
Nick, it's
fun.
so nice to see you.
Yay, it's so good to see everyone. Oh my God. It feels like forever. And then just to see all of your faces, it's like time has never disappeared. It's really nice. Oh, also.
And now it's the Nick and Draco show.
I should have put it on, but there we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I don't even have one.
Yeah, I'm wearing mine too.
They're so nice. They're so
They are.
comfy and they look amazing. They are awesome.
They're nice for little people.
And those are the things that I've
Tiny
written.
people.
Those are the things that I've written for the company. I've written the Three Musketeers. I wrote Truce with Jeff, and I wrote Frankenstein. So during the COVID lockdown, I wrote a Christmas farce that maybe one day will be done when we can do theater yet again. Four-hander, two couples at Christmas, and all hell breaks loose. So there you go. Little tease.
Perfect for 2020. All hell breaking loose.
No kidding, right? Oh my God.
Yikes. Before we move on, I just want to make sure anyone who hasn't spoken, do you have any questions for Kit? And then we're going to talk more about his directing, but feel free, type them in the chat, either in Facebook or Zoom, or just jump right in.
I think it's remarkable, going through all of this. It's really remarkable that if you think about that, we're just talking about a small cross section of the shows that City Lights has done, because we're talking about the ones I've had to do with, and even just a precious few of those. The remarkable scope of stuff that this company does. I mean, think about it. It's really crazy. It's really crazy. We're the San Jose Mercury News used to call City Lights, that scrappy company down the street, and we always used to sort of wonder if that was a compliment or not. But God damn it, I think it really was. Because I know, we're not afraid of the work. You know what I mean? We're not afraid of the work, which I guess brings up a couple of other shows that might have been afraid of and should have been or not. I don't know. What's next, Becky?
Well, we've got Kit the director. Oh, Michael West has a comment. He typed in, says Leopold, his directing technique.
Oh, who said that? Michael West?
Michael West said that, yes.
All right. I conduct when I'm directing, as Michael well knows. I will be very silent, but I'll be front and center, and I'll be sort of conducting musically. I believe, as George Bernard Shaw used to write musically. He used to write all of the various roles were the various vocal roles in music, and his plays were written musically. And I approach language as music often. So yeah, so I conduct, and it sort of has become a joke. Thank you, Michael West. If you remember the Chuck Jones cartoon where Bugs Bunny comes in and he's the conductor, Leopold, with the white glove. So that's the joke, is that I'm Leopold, with the thing, and I guess Michael West is my tenor, whom I make pop with my hand in the air. But that's the joke. Thank you. Hey, Michael, you know what I still have?
Andy's off.
I still have this. Remember? It's my swagger stick.
Oh,
You guys
okay.
gave me Commandant Wilder, that the cast gave me when we did A Few Good Men. Few Good Men, Tommy, that's you. That was a good one. I like that show. Anyway, go ahead, Becky. Where are we?
Well, I'm going to take one more question here from Katie in the chat, and then we'll talk about a few shows that you directed. We did acting, we did playwriting, we'll do directing. Katie wants to know, what was your most challenging show you acted in or directed at CLTC, and why?
Oh my. Acting, they're all hard. But as I said, I think on Butterfly is the hardest. I think it might be the hardest thing I've ever done or tried to do. I mean, you finish it and you think you did a good job. And I mean, an old teacher of ours who's no longer with us, an old teacher of Jeff's and mine, came and saw one of the later performances and sat in the house after the entire audience had left and was crying at the work that, his former students had done and whatnot. And and Butterfly, from an acting point of view, was incredibly difficult because it was such a tough nut to crack. I mean, the premise itself is is so far fetched, and the characters themselves are so they're obtuse and opaque and hard to get in. So that was difficult. Directing, Angels in America maybe is hard. Tommy was hard, but Tommy was hard because we had a lot of disasters with Tommy. Tommy was the show that almost didn't have any costumes. You know, that was a show that at the first dress rehearsal, the costumer came in with half of one costume. Half of one. And Amanda Felena was my choreographer for that. Several of you know Amanda very well. And I was so livid. I've never been this angry. And I pulled Amanda aside. I said, you have to get him out of here. I can't speak to him. And we need to powwow and solve this problem. So she invited him to leave, and he did. And she and I got together and we talked to the cast, and everybody went away and came back the next day, having raided all the various costume shops that they knew and had worked in. And we put the costumes together from what people brought in and made it work. That was another one. That's a show that I consider sort of a failure of mine, because I tried to do something you should never do. I had done a production of Tommy some years before. I think Jeff Bronco saw it at Peninsula Center Stage up in Redwood City. That was really good. And I tried to recreate it. And I tell you now, once and for all, don't ever try to recreate a past success. It will not work. So there's your lesson for the evening. So those are hard. More recently, shoot, I don't know. No, I love it too much to find it difficult for the most part. But those are some hard ones. Those are some hard ones. What's next, Becky?
One more quick question before we move on. A question from Kim. Kim asks, most changeling pre-production process.
The most what?
Most Kim, you want to clarify?
I was typing.
Most challenging pre-production. Oh my goodness.
It says change. We have a play coming up on our podcast. It's called The Changeling. So I was like, maybe it's being like metaphoric.
Okay, no, I'll tell you what.
I was actually thinking of Tommy, and then
and there you go. I mean,
that's your stage manager for that. So
that was a huge challenge. That show just.
But everybody came together so brilliantly, like it was.
But we took our knocks. It turned out to be actually quite an exciting show. People really enjoyed it, et cetera, et cetera. Another one that was difficult, not pre-production, but it was kind of a almost a crapshoot, kind of a gamble. Was A Few Good Men. And A Few Good Men, I'm gonna do a shout out here. A man named David Schertz, who is probably right here, who's a Marine, and who came in as a consultant on the show. We sort of hit it off magically right off the bat, which was great. I could ask him anything; he would tell me stuff, and he was there for virtually every single rehearsal. Of that show, every single rehearsal. And I'll tell you what, he was able to yell and scream and beat those actors into shape and turn them into Marines. And that was really exciting to see that happen. I mean, down to minutia, because what it took was it took the real deal to come in and tell us how to be the real deal, down to what the edge of the belt buckle lines up with on the uniform, what exactly the fold of a sleeve looks like if the colonel is going to wear his sleeves folded up. Questions like this in staging, I found myself having to stop and go to David and say, David, the colonel in his office, when he's talking fast and loose with his lieutenant and whatnot, could he sort of slouch and lean back on his desk? And the answer, of course, in that situation was, well, he's a guy chewing out his men. Of course he can. But we had to go to the expert. We had to go to somebody, and I derived a great deal of respect for something I only thought I knew about. And so doing that production was a learning experience for all of us, certainly for me, and I was really proud of the result. And it was due in large part to our very generous consultant who came in and was with me, every step of the way. And so thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And it's all about the gumball. The gumball was what made that show.
Oh my God. I still, every single Christmas, get a photograph from Charles McKeithen holding a red Christmas light. Because we did this thing in this one scene where Colonel Jessup offers one of the guys a gumball, and the guy says no, and Jessup just keeps holding it out, and so the guy takes the gumball, and then for the rest of the scene is sitting there, listening, holding the red gumball. So I was Charles McKeithen, and I get a photo every Christmas from Charles holding a red Christmas light.
You remember, Kit? Do you remember the night that all the gumballs fell on the stage?
I might not have been there.
No, all the gumballs tumbled out. Charles grabbed one. They all tumbled out.
It was in the rehearsal report.
And he and I and Michael Riley all looked at each other. And I believe I just said, "Well, pick them up." And he ran around, picked them all. And the nice thing was the audience was like trying to help him, and you could, we're looking at the audience. Funny. And they had that earnest look on their face, like they really wanted to help him.
The sheer panic on your guys' face was priceless, just priceless when all of that.
We got them all back in, and then we just, yay, live theater.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, that was one that was a leap of faith, and it magically sort of came together, which was super. Yeah, they're all hard though. Anybody who ever goes into a project as an actor, as a director, as a designer, as a stage manager, anybody, and says, "Oh no, this one's easy," raise your hand if you think that's a crock of crap. They're not easy. They're all hard, which is why which is one of the reasons why we do it. Right? What's next, Becky?
Let's talk about. Sorry, Anthony. Yeah, or someone said something.
Just a quick question. Hey, what's up, kid? Yeah. Hey, I got here late. Did you talk about original Rocky Horror yet? Have those stories?
Oh, hell yeah. Who is this?
Anthony.
Oh, there you are. I see you. Yes. I had to find you. Oh, yeah, we did. We talked about it.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, well, that was first. That was my first show at City Lights.
Okay.
So that's how we started. And the show that went from 5 weeks to 11 weeks.
Oh, did it?
We went all the way to 11 weeks with that, buddy.
Did it get extended a couple times?
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was good.
Okay.
Everybody wants to talk about Rocky Horror.
Hey, Kit, I have another question. What's the one show that got away from you that you regret the most, that you didn't fight a little harder or try a little more to get it?
Cyrano. But Cyrano was a punt from the beginning. I was disappointed in my work with it. I thought the actors did a terrific job, including Steve Lambert, who's right here. But I didn't like my work on it. What?
I said, I got to play a drunk. How hard is that?
Right? I didn't like my work on it. But again, time was against us. I discovered as we were halfway through, I didn't really like the text that we were using. So there were a lot of problems that I probably could have gone away and figured out how to manage it a little better, how to put it together better. It was fine. People enjoyed it. It didn't have sort of that soaring romantic magic that Cyrano is supposed to have. The actors were terrific, but I felt like I let the production down. So that's one of two. It and Tommy to me are like the ones like, oh dear, if I could have one back. If I could have two of them back, those would be the two I'd want back and maybe try again. For the cast, if nothing else, because there's nothing wrong with the cast that I had. They were terrific. I don't know. I also had pneumonia during a lot of Cyrano. So, what are you going to do? Boy, that was a downer.
Sorry.
And on that note, let's talk about Assassins.
Oh, thanks. Oh, gee.
Well,
okay.
I'm sorry, Kit, but you're directing.
It's got to be. We got to talk about it because it is a thing.
Some of them are downers.
Well, so Assassins is. I'm proud of Assassins being the show that put City Lights on the national map for a very unusual reason.
Yeah.
And I will tell the story. You send away for stuff, for the materials for a show, and they send you all the materials. They send you all the music books. They send you all the sides and the scripts and the stuff. And they do the same thing for Assassins. And Assassins, they send you all this published material and all these books that you give to the orchestra and you give to the this and you give to the da-da-da. And they sent a single mimeograph 2-page sheet of a song called Something Just Broke. Something Just Broke is a song that Sondheim added to Assassins when Assassins went across the pond to perform in Great Britain. He felt it was necessary to explain the phenomenon of presidential assassination, which is sort of more common to us and unfortunately, and less common to perhaps other cultures. Well, the thing was this mimeograph sheet front and back. It wasn't in any of the published books. So I sort of laid it aside and said, you know what, I don't like the song anyway. It breaks one of the cardinal rules of theater to me, and that is it tells the audience how to feel. And they need to just feel the way they feel, and we shouldn't be, telling them how to feel. So I said, we're not going to do it. Let's cut it. We're not going to do it. Show's better without it. And we did. And I thought the show was mighty darn good, with Robbie Brewer and John Aney and some great folks. And about 2/3 of the way through the run, with 2 weekends left, we got a call at City Lights from the folks who own the royalties, who own the text. They had gotten a call from Mr. Sondheim himself, who had read a review of our production of Assassins, saying that my decision to dump Something Just Broke was correct because the show worked better without it.
Might I add, this was the only time the Chronicle ever came down to review a City Lights show.
Horrible
and that's
song.
where he saw it.
I know you do. Yeah, so there you go. The company that's been under the radar for so long, all of a sudden, the Chronicle does a review. Mr. Sondheim reads it. Mr. Sondheim calls his agent. His agent calls, Tams or whoever it is, and they call us and say, you got a choice. You can restore the song or you can close your show. And this was on a Thursday morning, and we were about to start up another week of performances on Thursday.
Actually, I'm going to correct you there, Kit.
Go.
It was a Wednesday morning. It was at 1 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, and I was talking to the licensing agent, holding a wet, drippy toilet brush in my hand because I was scrubbing the toilets. At 1 o'clock.
I knew that it was like it was like right before we had to start up again, right?
Right. Their office closed at 5, and of course it's 4 o'clock their time when I'm talking to them. And I also had to ask, because there's a role of a little boy
and I cut
in the show that we did not include. And I asked the licensing agent, look, we don't have the little boy in the show either. We're going to get in trouble for that. And I could hear his eyes rolling on the other end of the line as he said, and don't forget, we also had to take out the intermission. So he said,
so I was getting to that.
yeah, he said, put the song in, take out the intermission, and I'm sure that will placate the artist. Those were his exact words.
Right. So that's what we did. And so we called as much of the cast that could come together on that evening. And of course, it was coming together on a Wednesday evening. And I told the stage manager, said, go and find newspapers, any newspapers. I just don't want to see their headlines on them. Find newspapers, type up the lyrics and put them inside the newspapers. Have them enter to this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, and sing the song, as many as we can get, because I couldn't go to rehearsal because I was doing another job. So we came and they came together miraculously, and they restaged the thing, and we cut the intermission, and we had 2 whole weekends of sold out houses, lots of people who were coming to see which version was better. And then a couple months later, I don't remember his name, but the fellow who played the balladeer for us went
Danny.
What was his name?
Danny. I don't remember his last name, but it's Danny.
Danny went to New York and went to see the New York production that was running and closing soon at that time. And he's
the Tony Award winning.
What?
The Tony Award winning that year.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Thanks so much.
Well, that's significant because ours was the only other production in the country running.
So he strikes up a conversation with the woman next to him, and it turns out that the woman next to him is the mother of one of the pit orchestra people. So after the show, his mother takes Danny, our balladeer, downstairs to go and meet this musician, who is her son. And he says, "Hey, this is Danny. He just played the balladeer, in Assassins, in California." And this woman's son says, "Oh, that's the production that only got shut down for cutting the song." So there you go. We were bi-coastal.
I remember there was a moment of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? But the prevailing thought was, Stephen Sondheim knows who we are.
I know, right?
Even though we were in trouble, I still felt like a little starstruck in that moment.
Well, and there was also a period of about 5 years subsequently that I was not allowed to direct any show that was owned by that particular licensing house. I was sort of blacklisted.
I saw the show. I never suspected anything was wrong. I remember them holding up the newspaper. That was the first show I ever saw at City Lights. I was like, this is great. I never knew.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I mean, it was a magnificent show, and it was paced to have an intermission. And the second act began with Sam Bick's monologue from George Giamatti, who was playing Sam Bick. And, the not having the intermission kind of added a little bit or made the show feel a little bit longer. And George has a brilliant idea of, hey, let me just go out there and sit there and I'll eat a full lunch, bring the house lights up, and I'll just sit there and eat for 15 minutes. And I wish I had the
there you go.
The fortitude to take him up on that offer, at least discuss it. But I said, no, we're in enough trouble already. So.
Yep. So that was the Assassin story. Other than that, I mean, it was a terrific show. I mean, look at the picture, for God's sake. That's good stuff.
Great show.
Yeah, it was good. And to me, it was like revisiting old friends, because I've been a student of American history and this particular sort of subset of American history, the assassinations of the presidents and whatnot, and Lincoln particularly, for many, 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 many years. So it was fun to dig into. It's one of the things I love about theater, is that you can revive these things that are long gone. You can bring back the dead in a way, and that was a lot of fun to do. And I kind of agree with Sondheim. Sondheim considers this his best score. I sort of agree with him.
Great show. Want to go on to Shakespeare?
Sure. Oh, geez. Love
Kit
me the
knows
bard.
a thing or two. Kit knows a thing or two about Shakespeare.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a story. My ex-wife and I, Lisa, were at a production of a Shakespeare. I had been working on her for a long time. Let me do a Shakespeare. And City Lights had done Shakespeare in the past, but Lisa tends to feel, and I tend to agree, that there's only one thing worse than bad musicals, and that's bad Shakespeare. And why would you want to do that? And I said, yeah, but the trick here is that it wouldn't be bad. So it took some doing, and we were thinking about doing one. And we went and saw a Bay Area production at an esteemed company of a show, and we're sitting there watching it. And Lisa turns to me at one point with a perfectly straight face and says, "Why do you want me to do this to our audiences?" Because it was not the best show ever in the universe. So I said, well, it wouldn't be bad. So she let me do Hamlet. Start easy, right? And a lot of people were like, why are you starting? Why do Hamlet? Why do Hamlet? Well, why not? So I felt that I had a Hamlet. And so I thought it was the time to do Hamlet. And I hope he's still here, because there he is on screen, Tommy Gorebeck, who was freaking fabulous as Hamlet. What I try to do with Shakespeare always is to make people feel like they've never seen it before, even if they know it really, really well, to illuminate something in such a way that they walk out going, oh, I had no idea. And ours was obviously was totally contemporary dress, very, very spare scenically. Tom Goff was in it brilliantly as Claudius. Lot of terrific folks. And yeah, and it was, there we go. Now am I to do it, Pat. Now he's praying. There it is. That piece of scenery was borrowed from Shakespeare Santa Cruz, because I had worked with Shakespeare Santa Cruz for the first time the previous summer, and they built that for a scene in the Three Musketeers. And I said, well, I need that for my Hamlet. So they lent it to me. Yeah, so Hamlet, and and a lot of people were leaving Hamlet going, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea. I just want everybody to understand it. I want everybody to understand it the way they'd understand any other play that they went and see. I want them to understand Hamlet just like they'd understand Death Trap, for goodness sake. It shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be foreign. It should be easily accessible because these plays, particularly Hamlet, I mean, you heard me talk about Hamlet ad nauseum a few weeks ago, is about all of us. So that's why I wanted to do Hamlet, and I thought we did not a bad job. The only big mistake made at all during Hamlet was in a performance that I had to sit in and be the stage manager for, and I forgot to set up the furniture for the show. So the first big scene change, when the furniture gets moved, lasted about 3 times longer than it was supposed to, because everybody had to run backstage to get the furniture. Yeah, Mr. Professional, thank you very much. So Tom probably remembers that. Tommy probably doesn't remember that because he's busy backstage going, oh my God, what's next? But yeah, we did some fun things with it. We changed things around, changed the order of some stuff, and tried to make it really, really current and very now. I thought it was pretty successful. Yeah. And then we did Merchant.
Oh, there's one more Hamlet.
There's more Hamlet.
One more Hamlet. And then Merchant, as you can see, I was very moved by that play, so I chose that as my background.
Yeah, I'd wanted to do the Merchant of Venice for a very long time, because I firmly believe that Shakespeare himself was not an anti-Semite. I believe that Shakespeare did not write an anti-Semitic play. I think Shakespeare wrote an anti-xenophobic play. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to do the Merchant of Venice in such a way that the audience would leave thinking, not knowing who the good guys were and who the bad guys were, and hearing things in the play for the first time. For example, the first person to mention anything about hatred based on religious lines is Shylock himself. I hate him for he is a Christian. It's the first time anybody says anything about hatred due to religious differences, which is sort of revelatory to a lot of people because they think it's all about, we know the play as Christians being so anti-Semitic and whatnot, but here is also the Jew who is very anti-Christian. And really, again, this sort of fits into Lisa's whole thinking that theater can be so much about empathy, can be so much about treatises on what it means to be excluded, to what it means to be the other. And indeed, I think that this play, written however long ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, fits that bill very, very well. And it's also a play that to this day, the artistic director of City Lights Theater Company wishes that I hadn't done something at the end of the play that I did that caused a big ruckus. But I knew we could do it because we have those gatherings at the end of every show. And so people who wanted to would come up and talk to us about what they had seen. And it was remarkable to be in a situation where at the beginning of a conversation, a patron would be shocked and accuse City Lights of being anti-Semitic. And then by the end come to realize that the portrayal of anti-Semitism does not require one to be anti-Semitic. That in fact, the portrayal of anti-Semitism is perhaps a treatise against anti-Semitism. It was a fascinating, fascinating process to go through. And not easy, certainly. But I had a terrific cast. Brian Herndon as Shylock, and Max Takis was in it, and Nick Mandrakia was in it, and Tassi was in it, and Maria, everybody's favorite at City Lights was in it, and Caitlin was in it, and I mean, oh my goodness, and Tom Goff was in it, who honored us with two amazing turns. One as the Duke, the judge, in the trial scene at the end, and in the middle of the play as the hysterical turn as one of Portia's suitors, who from day one in rehearsal had me in stitches. So Tom, thank you for that. That was a delight. So those are the Shakespeares. If you're gonna do
I
Shakespeare,
think I
man,
have it, Tom.
don't wimp. Don't wimp out. That's my feeling. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it the way you believe it. Right, Jeff? Who was Antonio, oh my God, in the show, and were brilliant. I mean, everybody was in the, I mean, it's remarkable. Everybody was in that show, practically. It's crazy. So, yeah. But that was one of those interesting shows where we were making tinkers all the way down to the last minute, and that's sometimes the best kind. I remember Antonio starts the show, in sooth, I know not why I am so sad. And originally I had you sitting at the table with the others and just starting it very casually. And having you, begin to play instead standing, and addressing that almost to the audience, it started so much stronger. Little tiny changes of positioning or a tone made a big difference with that show. And again, with Shakespeare, I simply wanted it to be understood top to bottom, every single word. That's what counts.
I do have a picture of Tom. I just realized I realized I got a picture of Tom. There we go.
Oh,
there he
There
is.
he is.
Tom at his most serious.
I am
Tom,
enjoined by
about the
us
accent.
to observe three things. First, never to unfold to anyone, which cascade was a chose.
Well, it's one of those shows where you need some laughs, and I got Tom.
Well, and you remember the read through when Tom first read that part? It was the first time he had worked it out phonetically, but you weren't very quick with it. You were trying to sound it out as you went. It must have taken 30 minutes for you to get through that speech, that scene. It was
mostly because I was holding for laughs.
It was every line. It was.
It's
oh my
true,
God!
there
It
were a
was
lot of
every line he spoke that we just could not hold ourselves in.
So funny, so funny.
I have a comment
because there are a lot of compendiums, there are a lot of collections of Shakespeare that put The Merchant of Venice in the comedy list. So, you got to have Tom.
I have a comment from Caitlin Papp, who is watching
Caitlin.
over on Facebook. Yeah, Caitlin says a couple things. She says, Brian Herndon, who is Shylock, hands down one of the best actors I've ever seen on stage. And we can all agree with that. Absolutely. And now she says, please have Nick tell the story about nature.
Nick, tell the story about nature.
Nick
Oh my God. Okay, so it was the very beginning scene with Jeff, April, and I, and you were discussing, as we are all looking off in a different direction, what we are thinking of in that exact moment. And I for some reason, my brain was just kind of out in the midst. I thought it was like, oh, well, like, what is my character thinking of right now in this moment? And I was trying to mix in my thought, like me personally, with the character as well. So I didn't realize that, oh, shoot, it's what the character's thinking, not what I'm thinking of at this moment. And so Kit says, on the count of three, I'm going to point to each of you, and each of you are going to tell me what your character is thinking of right now. And he immediately goes, Nick, go. And I got thrown off for a second, and I paused for like 2 seconds, and it just went, nature. And Kit, like, without even losing a breath, just goes, no. There's Max and George and Jeremy in the back just laughing so hard that we had a huge pause in the rehearsal because Kit was like, you guys need to shut up because this is a serious moment. But it was because of what I said that caused that to happen.
I had forgotten that.
We were supposed to come on, Jeremy, George, and I were supposed to come on later that scene laughing. And after that, pretty much every night we would just go 3, 2, 1, nature, nope, and then walk on just hysterical.
This is what goes on backstage during one of my magnum opuses. Great. Good job. Thanks, Max.
Oh, too good. Too good.
We've done lots of stuff.
You want the last one, or are we still merchanting?
What's the last one?
Cabaret.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was, shoot, man.
That
was
bring
the
on
last
Cabaret.
one.
There we
You
go.
know?
And there's Brian Herndon again.
Well, and I basically, I asked Brian if he'd be interested in being in Cabaret while he was doing Merchant. So there he is with Karen. Karen Welch, back in the day before she was married, now Karen DeHart, who's a marvelous actress and a singer and performer and a member of the board of City Lights. Back in 1980, 81, as a freshman in college at Santa Clara University, played Fräulein Schneider in a production of Cabaret in which I played the MC as a sophomore. So that's the first time Karen and I worked together, and then she was in this Cabaret that I just did. I had told Lisa for many, many years I thought that Cabaret would be perfect in our space. Ron was never really keen on doing it because he's seen so many cabarets that just sort of fell flat. I'm not a fan of the newer versions. I'm a fan of the original 1966 version. I think that the story is stronger. The story arc is stronger. I think that the focus of the story is correct. The focus of the show is correct. But you couldn't do the 1966 version anymore. You couldn't do it. It wasn't. You had to do the most recent version, which is the one made famous, by Sam Mendes when it was done at what used to be Studio 54 in New York. And then all of a sudden we found out, because it was the 50-year anniversary of the original production of Cabaret, that they were opening it up and letting people choose which version they wanted to do. And I told Lisa, I said, well, anytime you want to do it, I'll gladly do it. Because we were able to do the original, which I was glad to be able to do. With again, kudos to Ron Gaspernetti, who, after talking with me about what I wanted to do with the show and why I wanted to do the original 1966 version, jumped on it like nobody's business, and as you all know, transformed the theater into the Kit Kat Club, which was a lovely, lovely thing. The world we were playing in was extraordinary. But it's not a musical comedy. It's sort of like God, I do the Jewish plays. I did Coney Island Christmas. I did Handle with Care. I did Merchant of Venice. I did Cabaret. Well, there you go. That's what Cabaret's about. That's uplifting. Yeah, and I think that it's absolutely astonishing and needs to be done right now. I think it's a play that we all need to see, and we're perilously close to this for reasons both political and social. Can you go back for one shot, Becky? Go back to where the Kit Kat sign is on. You'll notice that the Kit Kat Club, this is one of those things that a lot of people didn't realize until we did it this way, but at the end of the play, all the lights of the sign go out except for the KKK. Which I thought was perhaps a little heavy-handed until I realized that a lot of people never made that connection. That, oh, it's the Kit Kat Club, it's the KKK. Yeah. And given that this show was originally done in the middle of the 60s, I refuse to believe that that's accidental. But there you have it. Powerful piece. And I was very glad to be able to work on it again for the third or fourth time, I think.
I love this photo.
The KKK was very powerful. It was like, whoa,
Yeah, it's one of those things that you don't really realize, and then suddenly it's in front of your face, right?
And it's right at the end, and people are just nailed to their seats going, holy shit.
Yeah, that's a good shot. So there you have it. That's me and all kinds of other things. 52 shows worth.
My goodness.
We've hit about 14 of them. One I want to mention just really, really quickly, because I have a cast member here who made that show really extraordinary. It's one that we haven't mentioned. And again, a show that I had done years and years before, and I got to do again, this time in the director's seat, was a production of Equus that we did. I don't know if you have any pictures, Becky, of that one, but Steve
I will go and look.
Played Dysart. I think I sent you a couple maybe in a production of Equus that, again, I mean, I'm grateful to City Lights for letting me do these difficult shows that with it's not every day that the company you work for trusts you implicitly. And that's a marvelous feeling, when both as an actor and as a director, to be able to be at the helm of a difficult show, have the management of the company know that you're not gonna screw the pooch. You're gonna do an able job of it. But Equus was one of those. Again, one of my favorite plays. Had an extraordinary cast, and Steve Lambert, who's here with us tonight, was totally in his element, and as Dr. Dysart, the psychiatrist in that play. It was really remarkable. And it has a notorious and famous nude scene in it at the end. Both the boy and the girl shed their clothes for this thwarted seduction scene that ends up horrifically at the end of the play. And I missed it. Like wasn't at that rehearsal. I always like to do a thing where I don't go to a rehearsal or two near the end of the process, and I let Lisa take the rehearsal, because I know that she'll see things that I haven't or what have you. And we've always sort of done that. I've done that with some of her shows. She always does it with mine, because I know that she'll see stuff that I just haven't, and it needs to be seen. And I had told my two actors, I said, I'm not going to put a date on when you have to shed your clothes, when you have to do the rehearsal al fresco, as it were. So I came back to rehearsal 2 nights later, and they had done it, and I missed it. But there's Equus. There's the set for Equus, which again, Ron Gaspernetti special, really lovely. The center square goes around in circles.
Yep.
And whatnot, and that was good stuff. I loved working on that show.
Me too.
But the actors weren't really happy with me about something. This didn't affect Steve so much, or the boy who played Alan so much, but everybody else. You'll notice that they're sitting in chairs right now. Nobody ever left the stage. Whenever anybody was off stage, they sat in a chair. They were always on. I don't think they really appreciated that all that much, but it was a very stunning effect. But I didn't have anybody shave, Nick. They just had to sit there, but nobody had to shave. So
well, would you look at that?
That was a good show. So there it is. That's a bunch of stuff I've done.
Anybody else have questions for Kit? I'm looking over on Facebook. I know we've gone longer than we usually do, but yeah, Kit, that's because you've done so darn much here at City Lights. I'm looking over at the comments, and people have signed off. Yeah.
Not counting that one production of Tommy, I've done everything except costuming at some time or another. I've stage managed, and I've acted, and I've directed, and I've done fights, and I've done from Tom Got There, What's Next? No kidding. Well, Lisa, what's next?
I can't wait for whatever's next. I can't wait. Let's get this big bad germ under control, and all get back to work, is what I have to say.
Yep, absolutely.
Into that.
Let's all get together again. Every Friday night, I find myself my heart is bursting with how much I miss these faces and these conversations. But tonight was such a nice reminder of all of the great work. There's been some really wonderful shows, and so many friendships formed, and so many people touched, and so many audience members engaged. And I just can't wait for us to be able to gather again. And it almost doesn't even matter what show, is actually how I feel. But we are still, Kit and Jeff both, I'm sure, will keep writing things. And moving forward, I'm feeling even more excited about new work too. So there's that.
Well, Becky and I were putting together this evening, and the focus has been on these 52 silly things that I've done. But really, this tonight and all of the Friday night shows, all of the next stage presentations are celebrations of what City Lights is all about. That's really what's in the spotlight for all of these and tonight. And I know that all of you know how hard it is for me to say that it's not about me. It's about City Lights, but it's true. And I also want to thank, a big shout out for all of us who work at City Lights and love City Lights. A big shout out to Lisa Millette, who is not going to let it go anywhere, who is working her derriere off to keep things going. If the rest of the country went about their business the way Lisa goes about hers, we probably would be a lot better off. But so Lisa, thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Let's just all stick together so that when it's time to come back, we're all ready to come back.
Yep.
Stick together,
Yeah.
everybody.
What Lisa
Keep
said.
believing.
Yeah.
One day at a time. One day at a time.
One day at a time.
Everybody's healthy and sane, right? Everybody's doing good.
Healthy, I don't know about sane.
All right. All right. There you go. Yeah. Exactly.
Those don't always go together.
No, they don't.
And especially if you're in theater, they definitely don't go together, you
By
know?
the way, has anybody had a COVID test?
Yes.
Okay, I had one this morning because I'm doing a quick thing on campus on Monday, so I had to be tested. Nobody could possibly describe correctly what that's like. That thing is this long that you put right up all the way until it stops, and it goes clunk against the back of your sinus.
Kit, is this really how you want to end an
Yes.
hour and 45 minutes talking about your amazing career?
It is. It's the perfect.
Yeah, but it's not about
It's astonishing. How many of you are going to use that for something in some show someday? I guarantee.
Just gonna say, ours wasn't that bad.
Ours was a Q-tip.
I just remember I took mine at the time when the drive-through testing was first being introduced, and I got there, and the person doing it was just like, oh, like you might cry a little bit, you might throw up, like I don't know, like we'll just give it a go. And I was like, wait, huh? And then literally seconds later, she was just like, okay, so I need you to stand still, and went whoop.
Yeah,
it's
I got to do it myself, so there you go. Anyway, I just wondered if anybody else thought that was a weird thing. It's a very weird thing.
It's crazy.
Hey,
So,
Kit.
Yeah.
Kit, I just want to thank you for all of the great work that you have done at
thank you.
City Lights over the years. And there will be more. Even if you do live in Virginia, we will still find ways to make that happen. And, thank you for sharing all of that amazing talent with us.
You betcha. Thank you for the opportunities and the fun that we've had. It's been great.
Also, go to sleep.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, daughter.
Late,
It's late.
Father. It's very late. It's almost 1
right.
a.m. Very late. Go
Well,
to sleep.
How great, Becky. Thanks for setting this up. This was great.
My pleasure.
It's good to see everybody and so many old faces that I haven't seen in a while, which has been great. Anthony, great to see you. Katie, super.
You too, man. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. And look at you. You're looking almost like George Gimetti there with the beard thing going.
Hold on. Okay,
No,
you know what?
that's
It's
a-
late
that's a-
and we'll
that's a
end it on
compliment.
that. That's fine.
That's a compliment that George should feel good about because
Wait, no. You know what? Okay. You suffered for your art. We shall let that go.
so it's good to see everybody.
All right.
Everybody,
I'm gonna
take
end this
care.
thing.
Bye.
Good to
We
see you
all
all.
do terribly.
Good to see you all.
Jazz hands, Michael, jazz hands.
And cut.
Go.